Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Random House Children's Books Summer 2022 Librarian Preview. I'm Sarah Hunter, Books for Youth and Graphic Novels Editor at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation was included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download it, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the link located there. You can also download the slides by copying the URL in this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Last but not least, Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing about some wonderful upcoming titles from Random House Children's Book School and Library team. But first, we will begin our program with a panel featuring the creators of The Notebook Keeper and Everything in Its Place. Stephen Briseño is an English language arts teacher living in San Antonio, Texas. The Notebook Keeper is his first children's book. Visit him on the web at stephenbriseño.weebly.com. Magdalena Mora is the illustrator of I Wish You Knew by Jackie Azua Kramer and Equality's Call by Deborah Deason. She lives in the Twin Cities. Visit her on the web at magdalenamora.com. Charnelle Pinkney Barlow grew up surrounded by art and was inspired by the world of watercolor. She received her BFA in illustration from the University of the Arts and her MFA in illustration as visual essay from the School of Visual Arts. Creating images and stories that speak to the hearts of children and those that guide them is her greatest joy. Charnelle lives in Indianapolis with her husband. When she's not drawing, she is baking, sewing, or reading with a cup of tea by her side. Find her online at callmechartreuse.com and follow her on Instagram at callmechartreuse. And finally, we'll be hearing from Pauline David-Sax, who is a playwright, author, and educator living in Brooklyn. She worked in New York City public schools for 18 years before turning her attention to writing. Everything in Its Place is Pauline's debut children's book, and was inspired by her friendship with the Sirens Women's Motorcycle Club in New York City. Pauline's play How We Survived was awarded the 2020 Jane Chambers Prize, and her play Cotton's Tail was selected as a finalist for the 2021 Susan Glaspell contest. Before we get started with the questions, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the books we'll be talking about today. The Notebook Keeper by Stephen and illustrated by Magdalena is based on true events. In this moving and stunningly illustrated picture book, Noemi and Mama flee their home in Mexico and head for the US border. There they look for the Notebook Keeper, the person in charge of a ledger for those waiting to cross, and they add their names to the book. As the days turn into weeks and hope dwindles, the little girl looks for kindness around her and in herself. One day when the Notebook Keeper's own name is called across, Noemi and her mama are chosen for the generosity in their hearts to take her place. Everything in Its Place by Pauline and illustrated by Charnelle is an inspiring and poetic story about reading, libraries, and overcoming social anxiety to find self-acceptance with gorgeous collage illustrations. Nikki is a shy little girl who feels most at home in the safe place of her school library, and when the library closes for a week, she is forced to face her social anxiety. But when she meets a group of unique, diverse, inspiring women at the diner where her mother works, Nikki realizes that being different doesn't have to mean being alone and that there's a place for everyone. Thank you so much for being here, Stephen, Magdalena, Charnelle, and Pauline. I'm so happy to talk to you about your books today. I've got some questions for authors, some questions for illustrators, and hopefully we will all be able to have a nice, warm conversation throughout. So I'm going to start with a question for the authors here. Both of these books are collaborations between an author and an illustrator, and I'm curious for the authors in the room, was there anything about the illustrator's work that made you see your own words in a new light? And Stephen, how about we start with you with this one, if that's okay?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So good to see everybody. Thank you for coming. There's one scene in particular in The Notebook Keeper when Noemi and her mother are at the border, and their name is in the notebook, and they're in a tent, and the colors that Magdalena has chosen is just everything around it is dark, but just the two of them just shines against the darkness that's around them, and it's just such a beautiful little scene that I was not expecting. And when I finally got the F&G and looked at it, I'm like, oh my, it just took my breath away and made me see their relationship in a much different light, like so much more rich, so much more beautiful. So I really liked that image.
You caught on to the point of this question here, which is to like give your illustrator as many compliments as possible. So thank you.
She deserved all the compliments.
Pauline, you're next. What in Charnelle's illustrations made you see your words in a new light?
I think there were two things. The first is that the first time that I talked to my editor, Frances Gilbert, who I believe is on this call. Hi, Frances. We talked about the idea of putting collage in the book. I'm a big fan of works that use collage, and this is a book about a person, a child who loves reading and loves the library. But I have to say that what Charnelle came up with collage far exceeded any of my hopes and dreams. She found these vintage library cards, the catalog cards, and I reference a Mary Oliver poem about wild geese, and there are these images of birds made of catalog cards, and it just is spectacular. Just amazing. And the other thing, which was very unexpected and I love so much, and one of the things I love is every time I look at the proofs, I see something new. So I just love that so much about what you did, Charnelle. Thank you so much. In the beginning, Nikki, who's the main character, she is in the school library, which is her special place. It's the place she feels really comfortable and secure. And Charnelle added all this beautiful garden imagery. There are all these flowers that this is a place that's blooming. And she finds out that she's going to have to spend a week not in the library. She's going to have to go to recess with the other kids. And she feels really sick in the stomach about this. And she goes and she realizes at the diner where her mother works that this patron, who she thought was a really strong loner type of person, actually is a member of a women's motorcycle club, and she meets all of these sisters, these motorcycle sisters. And then when she goes back out to school and she has to go to recess, she's very nervous, but we can see that there are flowers there, although there are also clouds and rain. And then through the book that Maggie, her friend at the cafe, lent her, this other girl approaches her, and we see her through these flowers, and they sit together and read. And again, they're surrounded by trees and flowers. So I just love that whole idea of flowers and nature and blooming as another metaphor and another piece that wasn't in the text, but is so beautiful.
Cool, thank you. So illustrators, now I'm going to turn it over to you. What element of the author's words really inspired the direction that you took in your artwork for these books? And Charnelle, I hope you don't mind if we start with you on this one.
Sure. So my favorite thing about Pauline's writing for this book was the quietness of it. Like, it reflects the character so well. Where it's very simple and it's quiet, but you can still see the journey. You can still see her highs and lows. And so reading it reminds me of like that feeling of when you are like going on an early morning walk, or you're like sitting at the lake at dawn, and, you know, things are starting to come alive, but it's still quiet and there's mist and everything's just magical. That's what, you know, this book feels like. And so I tried to capture that in the drawings and stuff, and what Pauline was saying with the imagery and the flowers and stuff, to kind of show the difference between where she's secure in the library and she has, you know, all of the books around her. And then when she's like out and kind of like out of her comfort zone. And then another thing I really loved was all of the Dewey Decimal System references and stuff. That was awesome.
I looked some of those up when I read the book to see what books she was looking at in the library. So I liked that part too. Magdalena, how about you? What about Stephen's text really struck you when you were starting to work on these illustrations?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, I kind of fell in love with the manuscript when I first read it. And, part of that was Stephen just included these like small details about the characters that, I just thought like added such a richness, and you could really start to picture like who they were. And I think that was unique because like oftentimes when we like can reflect on how maybe the media has like talked about the migrant crisis, it's kind of like immigrants and refugees are kind of presented as this like faceless mass. And I think like it felt to me like really special that Stephen had like included details about like what Noemi, the main character, like what she brought in her bag. I think it was like a notebook, a blanket, a doll. Those details might easily be overlooked, but those kind of like, I felt like they set the direction for where I wanted to go with the illustrations, was to sort of treat each character in the book as an individual with their own stories and their own backstories, even if, you didn't get to read about them. I tried to like incorporate details into their clothing that maybe indicated like their country of origin, or like, making sure that everyone had really distinctive facial features and expressions. Because Stephen did that so well in the text, and so I really wanted to honor that in the illustrations.
Cool. I know, Stephen, you include a photo, since it is inspired on a real story, of the notebook keeper in the back of the book. And Magdalena, I was wondering whether you looked at any photos when you were working on the artwork, and including especially the photo that was included in the book itself.
Yeah, I did. I did a lot of photo research, and I had like a whole sort of photo archive. And I also was able to actually visit the Tijuana border at the time that I was illustrating. And so I was able to get some like firsthand research. But yeah, it was important to do a lot of photo research because I'm not super familiar with the landscape in the area. And so I wanted it to, to be as accurate as possible too.
And Stephen, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that photo that you included in the book. I realize this is a question that I sent you ahead of time, but I'm curious.
Yeah, so my editor, Annie Kelly, who's here on the call, hi Annie, we went through a lot, like really looking for the right photo, because again, this isn't just a fictionalized occurrence, like these are real people that were doing this. And so we wanted to find something that captured that. And I feel like the photo really shows the humanity of it, just like the nitty grittiness of it. And that was a photo that I hadn't seen until we had seen like the final art, and it perfectly captures the experience of being a notebook keeper. So
great. And Charnelle, I hope you don't mind, I have one other question about your artwork. When you were collecting text for the collage components, where you're incorporating words into the images, where did that material come from? Did it come from a specific place?
So I got like a whole package of like vintage catalog cards from Itsy. And I just kind of went through and I was trying to pick out ones that kind of reflected some of the Dewey Decimal System numbers that were mentioned, like the 800s and stuff like that. It was a random assortment, so I had to kind of pull what I did. And then the other stuff that I used, a lot of it was from unsplash.com, which is this wonderful catalog of copyright-free images that you can use for personal or commercial use, and it's amazing. And then other stuff, yeah, I think most of it was like the catalog cards and other like library cards that I got off of Etsy. So that was awesome.
Cool. So I'm going to turn more thematically to the books here. Both of your books emphasize finding hope in unexpected places. And I would like you to speak to a little bit about what makes that such a powerful theme for a picture book in particular. Pauline, would you mind if we started with you on this one?
Sure. Well, so for me, it's about finding hope and also about finding connection in unexpected places. This book was inspired by knowing women who are members of the Sirens, which is New York City's oldest women's motorcycle club. And my friend's sister is in the club. And so my friend's daughters grew up around members of the club. And when my younger daughter was born, I found myself thinking, oh my gosh, that's so amazing, because this is a group of women that are so diverse, racially diverse, body size, gender presentation, just in so many different ways. They're so diverse. And I thought this is and they all ride bikes, right? They all ride motorcycles, which is not something you see every day. And I thought, how amazing that her kids get to see this, and that by extension, my daughter is going to get to see this, but not all kids get to see this. And I really just have loved how picture books bring the world into other worlds, right? You can bring the world to you in a picture book. So that was a starting off point for me, was this idea of both representing that to people who might not see that kind of representation, and also showing that you may end up finding your place with people who don't superficially look like you, and you might find connection with people who might surprise you. So I think that those were some of the ways that I really thought about this idea of who do we find connection with? And to me, there's a lot of hope in the idea that we can find connection across different people.
Yeah. Stephen, how about you? What makes that theme important for a picture book?
Well, for my story in particular, I'm reminded of the famous Mr. Rogers quote about where he encourages people to look for the helpers. And so often, especially when it comes to stories regarding migrants or the border, it's so emotionally charged and usually negative. And in all the stories that I was the research that I was doing about the Notebook Keeper, there was this theme, this thread of, regardless of whatever their situation was, there were always people helping each other, people that had nothing, that were fleeing just awful experiences that I can't even fathom. But despite it all, they're still helping every day, and then they're passing it on to someone that's going to continue helping. So I think the idea of hope, so often in our world, we as adults anyway, we focus on the negative, but picture books give us a chance to kind of clear that out of the way and focus on the good, even if it's just this little morsel of good. And so hopefully that translates, but I think that hopefully that answers your question. So.
And Magdalena, Stephen touched on this a little bit when he was talking about what he noticed in your art, but I wonder how you approached depicting finding hope in unexpected places in the artwork.
Yeah, I think there were a couple ways, one through color, like how Stephen had mentioned, by, even if you had a dark kind of backdrop, picking moments that were kind of illuminated within, so that your eye could sort of focus on where those, visual moments of hope were. And then I also added these birds that carried across through each spread, and the final scene kind of culminated with Noemi and her mom looking up and seeing the birds taking flight. And I think what Stephen said, it's really difficult to find moments of hope in a situation like this, especially when you're reading the news stories. But I think it was really significant, in the manuscript, that you saw that hope didn't necessarily come from the places it was supposed to, but it came from the people around them, and these small moments of hope. And so I kind of wanted to translate that idea visually too, by showing the connection between all of the characters in the book, and really, and the birds and colors. So
it's lovely. Charnelle, your turn. I think Pauline touched a little bit on this too, in how you chose to incorporate images of nature both inside and outside. But was there any other way that you approached depicting finding hope or community in the book?
I think a lot of it was kind of choosing different aspects from the places that were mentioned in the text. So like when she's in the diner and she sees all of Maggie's motorcycle sisters, you know, we see like parts of the diner, like we see them eating pie, we see forks, we see cups, you know, they're all laughing and stuff. And then another aspect was kind of using nature to show how Nikki is blooming, right? As she goes from the beginning of the book to the end. And using the flowers and also the geese from the poem that Nikki reads in the book that was given to her by Maggie, that talks about the wild geese by Mary Oliver. And when I read that poem, I was like, oh my gosh, it's literally perfect. So when you read the book, you have to also read Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. And so I wove that through, like, and you can see it on the cover as well, where the geese are kind of carrying that theme of community and togetherness and, you know, finding a home with your flock.
A lot of birds then.
Yes, a lot of birds.
So I think, Stephen, you touched on this a little bit in your last answer, but children so often read picture books with grownups. And a lot of times when we talk about picture books, we talk about what children can take away from them. But because so many adults are reading these too, I'm curious what you hope adults can take away from your picture books. And Pauline, how about we start with you on this one?
Sure. You know, first of all, this is a book about connection through reading and loving to read. And so that's something that I hope that people reading a picture book will also, that will resonate of all ages. I also think, you know, I guess one of the big things for me is this idea that we can find community. Everyone does have a place, and that place might not look like how you assume it is. Nikki assumes that she has nothing in common with the kids at the recess yard, and yet she finds that she does. And so I think that's really important, is to think about both enjoying the beauty of the fact that people present and look all different ways, and also understanding that, like, we can find a lot of commonality in ways that are really deep, even if superficially we might think that that doesn't exist.
Charnelle, how about you next? What do you hope adults take away from your book?
Similar to what Pauline said, like, it's easy for adults as well as kids to kind of get stuck in either isolation. I mean, you know, especially with the times we're in now, and loneliness and feeling like you don't have, you know, a community. And I hope that this book shows that taking small risks, whether it's, you know, going outside to the playground or maybe reaching out to someone who is new in town or a new neighbor, that small risk can really open up different possibilities.
Great. Stephen, you're next. What do you hope adults take away from your book?
Well, I feel like kids have such a great eagerness to imagine, like that it's easy for them to imagine, but as we get older, it's like it's a lot more challenging for us to empathize. So I really hope that adults, as they're reading this, that they would empathize with Noemi and her mother's story, that they could kind of see themselves and imagine themselves, what would life be like if that was my situation? You know, so often, especially with it's a charged topic for a lot of people. I'm in Texas, so it's really charged. So hopefully for just a split second, they would put a face to the crisis and understand that it really is a human issue and not just a political one, that there's real human beings behind all of it. So I really hope that parents and adults come away with that.
Great. And Magdalena, I'm going to give you the last word on this one. What do you hope adults take away from your book?
Yeah, I think, pretty similar. Well, I think first and foremost, I hope it just builds awareness. This was the first time, I had heard news reports about the migrant crisis, but this is the first time I had heard like this kind of specific story about the notebook keeper and how communities are kind of just left to create their own sort of like system of governance and, like within this crisis point. And so I think just like for adults to learn about it, and hopefully it inspires them to do a little bit more research about, who's at the border and what's going on there, and read up on people's individual stories. But, similar to what Stephen said, I think when we're like moved by one character or by one story, I think that can really help us see the humanity in the issue at large. And maybe help us foster like a greater sense of kind of like shared responsibility for helping in whatever way we can. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I'm afraid that's all we have the time for here today, but thank you so much for this great conversation. It was lovely to hear from all of you. So thank you, Stephen, Magdalena, Charnelle, and Pauline. One second here. And now we're going to hear about some of the wonderful upcoming picture book, middle grade, and YA titles, plus some graphic novels for your library's collections. Please welcome me in joining the Random House Children's Book School and Library team.
Thanks, Sarah. Welcome, everyone. My name is Adrienne Weintraub, and thank you so much for joining us at our preview today. Thank you to our amazing authors and illustrators for that wonderful conversation. My colleagues and I are going to tell you about some of the many amazing books we have coming this summer, and we're going to kick it off with picture books. So we'll get started with Uni the Unicorn, The Haunted Pumpkin Patch. Uni the Unicorn continues to capture the heart of young readers and know that they can celebrate the magic of the Halloween season with Uni, which is kicking off a new series of paperback storybooks. In this new series that kicks off with Halloween, we see Uni experiencing real-world feelings that families will want to read about and kids can identify with. Next. New from Troy Cummings, Arfy, the lovable pup who searched for his forever home in Can I Be Your Dog, is back, trying to reunite a turtle with his classroom. Arfy is visiting schools, helping kids who are learning to read, which is the perfect premise for a read aloud. Arfy's letters that make up the story makes this fun to read and a great introduction to the format for first-time readers and writers. Next. The third book in New York Times bestselling author Christina Geist's heartwarming and humorous series explores evergreen social emotional themes like authenticity and friendship building, great for the back to school season. And Buddy's best friend moves away, and it's time he learns to make new friends. Next. This is the most adorable addition, your back to school or first time going to school story times. It's the first day of school. Little Tortoise is all ready to go with her backpack and snacks and supplies. She just has to get there on time. Gentle, reassuring language full of wordplay and bold and bright art by an upcoming artist offers students a comforting story about this new experience. Here's a fresh way to encourage reluctant students to be on their way. Next. This young picture book plays with the double meaning of rules to explore how following a few simple rules of kindness can make playtime more fun for everyone, featuring simple text and engaging illustrations that embrace with the varying needs and capabilities of the cast of animal characters. Our playground rules is built to help small children feel seen and to better empathize with others. And with that, I'm gonna have Natalie join us.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie Capagrossi, and I'm excited to talk about a few titles that are excellent for fostering social emotional learning. Starting with The World Needs More Purple Schools. It is Back to School with Kristen Bell and Benjamin Hart. Their first picture book taught us how to be a purple person. That is, a person who finds common ground with others while celebrating what makes them unique. Now, Penny and her pals will put their purple skills into action in their classroom. So how do you make a purple school? It will take curiosity, sharing, hard work, and lots of laughs. Instill these values in young readers with The World Needs More Purple Schools. Next slide, please. And from social emotional learning expert Trudy Ludwig and award-winning picture book illustrator Patrice Barton, co-creators of The Invisible Boy, comes a story about managing anxiety and finding the courage to stand up for yourself and others. This story will resonate with kids readjusting to school and social life, as well as anyone who's dealt with shyness or anxiety. Brave Every Day is a perfect read to benefit young worriers. Next slide, please. Most Perfect You. This is actor and activist Jasmine Simon's first picture book, a tender story that emphasizes unique beauty and encourages children to love themselves. Most Perfect You is about the special bond between mother and daughter, and it also subtly unpacks themes of identity, colorism, and societal beauty standards. Next, please. Care to Share is a joyful exploration of friendship, generosity, and confidence that comes from within. It is a fresh take on celebrating the beauty of natural textured hair, as it tackles the difficulty of childhood medical hair loss. It is a beautiful book that shows the impact empathy and generosity can have on one's self-esteem. Next, please. And a wordless picture book, I Forgive Alex, from Kara Soet, the New York Times bestselling creators of I Walk with Vanessa. This is a picture book about empathy and forgiveness. It is a perfect companion to I Walk with Vanessa, as this story explores the difficult feelings that come with apologies and forgiveness. Additionally, it shows young readers that being ready to forgive can be as important as being ready to take responsibility for wrongdoing. Next, please. The New Kid Welcome / Welcome the New Kid. Told from the perspective of a student, The New Kid Welcome presents readers with two versions of what happens when a new kid comes to the school, how feelings of intolerance can give way to those of inclusion and kindness. Interestingly, this title has an unconventional flip-it narrative structure that can be read forwards or backwards, offering two stories in one. It is the perfect vehicle for exploring perspectives. Precise, thoughtful text and inclusive illustrations combine to create a perfect tool for promoting acceptance and a kinder world. Next, please. Many students have had friends move away or have moved away themselves. The Long Ride Home is a universal and broadly appealing friendship story that explores the power of memory after a friend leaves. With tenderness, warmth, and heart, Stephanie Gregan expertly balances the bittersweet sensation of cherishing a moment long past in this gorgeous, sepia-hued classic in the making. Next, please. And as you just heard about everything in its place, librarians, this picture book is a love letter to you. Nikki, a shy little girl who feels most at home in the safe space of her school library, is forced to face her social anxiety. But when she meets a group of unique, diverse, inspiring women at the diner where her mother works, Nikki realizes that being different doesn't have to mean being alone. Book lovers of all ages will recognize the truth that books and librarians help us to find empathy and connections with the world around us. Next, please. Little Ellen, what makes you unique? Find out in this book that stars the creative and lovable character from Ellen DeGeneres' debut picture book based on her new animated series. This book is an exploration of imagination and play that encapsulates Ellen DeGeneres' signature humor, problem-solving skills, and resilience. Next, please. And Kindergarten. Kindergarten is a new picture book from veteran teacher Vera Ahia, aka the Tutu Teacher. This is reassuringly told by Vera and brought to exuberant life by illustrator Joey Chu, and it's a story about a classroom coming together to make a kindergarten into a kindergarten It is sure to calm the nerves and offer some inspiration to new kindergartners and the adults in their lives. And with that, I'll pass it over to Erica.
Hi, I'm Erica Stone. I'm here to tell you about the nonfiction and biographies we have coming up. So Hello World Kids Guides picked up where the mega successful board book series leaves off. This spin-off picture book series has a higher reading level and provides a deeper scientific exploration into each topic, making it perfect for budding scientists. Next slide. May Makes a Way. This is by acclaimed author Lemoncello Pergovich and award-winning illustrator Andrea Pippins, who tell the story of May Reeves, a fashion designer to the stars and civil rights activist. This book was published in collaboration with the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. It'll have extensive back matter, which features an interview with May's daughter, Donna Limerick, as well as an interview with Dr. Renee S. Anderson, who's head of collections at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. Next slide, please. Courage Like Kate. This is an inspiring and beautifully illustrated picture book biography based on the life of Kate Moore, a 12-year-old lighthouse keeper in the 19th century who saved the lives of 23 sailors. This is sure to satisfy the ever-growing demand for picture book biographies about strong girls and women. It will also empower kids to make a lasting impact in their world. Next slide, please. The Mystery of the Monarchs is a new picture book from Barb Rosenstock, author of the Caldecott honor book, The Noisy Paint Box, as well as Vincent Can't Sleep, Through the Window, and Mornings with Monet. This gorgeous picture book is based on the true story of the scientists who solved the mystery of the monarch butterfly migration with the help of school children. This is a wonderful story for nature lovers of all ages and perfect for classrooms since butterflies are a perennial topic. Extensive back matter makes it this perfect STEM book to add to your library. Next slide, please. One Turtle's Last Straw. This book is based on the viral video that sparked an environmental movement and helped create awareness of the harm caused by plastic straws. This is a great tool to facilitate conversations with children around sustainability and empowers kids to work to protect their environment. It will also include an author's note bibliography and further resources that are sure to make it a hit for classrooms and libraries. Next slide, please. This is a fascinating companion to If the World Were 100 People. It will help kids understand the creatures that share our world and how we can protect them. Big ideas are expressed through bite-sized chunks of information and eye-opening graphics. Next slide, please. My Blue Ribbon Horse. This is the picture book version of the best-selling adult book, The $80 Champion. This incredible true story of one family's beloved horse, Snowman, tells the story of how it overcame great odds to become a world-renowned champion. The themes of resilience and perseverance make this an excellent social emotional learning tool. Next slide, please. Double Puppy Trouble is the newest math-focused picture book series from best-selling author Danica McKellar. It is truly filled with puppy-fueled chaos. In this book, kids will learn about the power of doubling through a zany and fun narrative with built-in math concepts that is sure to please. And over to Adrian, I believe.
Oh, thank you. So Kalamata, the fearless food adventurer, and her friends are back in the second picture book from Kalamata's Kitchen. In Taste Buds in Harmony, the crew learns about ingredients and how, when they combine together, they can combine together in order to make things taste good, just like combining everyone's ideas make their dance routines better. This is a wonderful series that teaches about foods, cultures, and friendships. Next slide, please. And then we have The Notebook Keeper that you've heard about. It's also going to be available in Spanish. And not much more to say. I think both Stephen and Magdalena did such a wonderful job. I just wanted to say again what a touching story it is and one that needs to be told. Next slide, please. From the same team that brought us the highly acclaimed The Paper Kingdom, Helen Curie and Pascal Campion comes another story about hardworking immigrants, the importance of community, and one that demonstrates how a simple act of kindness can be passed along to others. Jay Newley in the US from South Korea is missing home and everything that is familiar, until one day, he meets a girl named Rosa and her colorful parrot. Rosa shows Jay around and they become friends. When Rosa leaves unexpectedly, Jay knows it's his turn to teach the two newly arrived kids that just moved in. This story is based on an incident from Helen's childhood. Next slide. And then I have two quick mentions. All Are Welcome is going to be brought out in Spanish, so we are very excited about that. That's by Alexandra Penfold and Suzanne Kaufman. And then next slide, The Name Jar. This classic picture book is getting a refresh for today's readers. And over to Katie.
Hello, everyone. Have you ever thought to yourself, am I living my absolute best canine life? If so, Chip is the dog for you. Chip is 7 and he just knows things. He can tell you what to eat and what not to eat, bees, of course, plus some other super silly advice. Coming to you from the comedic duo who brought you I Don't Want to Be a Frog, Don't Eat the Bees is perfect for pet lovers and readers who like funny animal stories. Next, please. Ruby and the Itsy Bitsy Icky Bug. Everyone has that one thing that totally freaks them out. For me, it's birds, and for Ruby, it's bugs. Ruby does not like bugs. When she discovers one on her window, she freaks out, but no amount of yelling will get this bug to go away. Over the course of the day, Ruby is forced to admit that Mr. Yucky Bug might just have some interesting qualities after all. Ruby and the Itsy Bitsy Icky Bug is a funny story for kids with big feelings and curious minds. Next. The World's Longest Licorice Rope. Ben takes his collection of nickels to the neighborhood sweet fair and decides to trade in 1 nickel for the longest licorice rope in the world. As he sets off on an adventure to find out just how long the longest licorice rope in the world actually is, he discovers that traveling is expensive, as each obstacle he encounters costs him another nickel, conveniently paid to the enterprising candy seller that sold him the rope in the first place. But when Ben meets a friend at the end of the rope, the two remind readers that friendship is always free. A humorous story about the priceless value of friendship from the creators of Dino Grow. Next. A Wish for Twins by Dorothea Rohner. As an aunt to boy-girl twins, I find this title to be particularly poignant. It's a poetic story that follows 2 twin babies in the cosmos as they float around playing, waiting to be called to Earth from their loving families. In the tradition of Nancy Tillman's On the Night You Were Born, this is destined to become a treasured gift for families and new parents. Next. The More You Give. Once there was a boy who loved his grandma. The boy's grandma gives him many gifts, including all her wisdom about things that grow. As the boy becomes a father, he shares these gifts with his daughter, who continues the chain. This is a modern-day response to The Giving Tree, and it is a lyrical picture book that shows how family passes down love from generation to generation, leaving a legacy of growing both trees and community. Next, and I'll pass it back to Adrian.
If You Find a Leaf. In Amy Sakura's first book as both the author and illustrator, her beautiful collage artwork using real leaves helps tell the story of fall, while also encouraging young artists to create their own work using their imagination. Back matters included that talks about the different leaves and gives tips on how to create with them. Next slide, please. The Boy Who Loved Maps by Carrie Allen and illustrated by the award-winning G. Brian Karras is a perfect tie-in for classroom learning about maps. A boy who loves maps is challenged when he is asked to draw a map of the perfect place. This is a charming book that celebrates home and is a gentle reminder to look around and appreciate what surrounds you. Next slide. The Disappearing Mr. Jakes is a fun interactive read that encourages the reader to take action. It's perfect for story time. It's one of those books that talk directly to the readers. Do you believe in magic? Watch closely as the astounding Mr. Jakes disappears and reappears within the book. If you listen to the story, he might even show you how he does it. Next slide, and over to Erica.
Hi, I'm here to tell you about Step Into Reading. So next slide. I'm excited to share a few new additions to the Step Into Reading lineup. For those of you who may not be as familiar with this series, Step Into Reading is a comprehensive 5-level reader program designed to give every child a successful reading experience. These books include popular and licensed characters, nonfiction, phonics readers, and more. And over to Natalie for chapter books.
So if you have readers who are practicing their independent reading skills, we've got you covered with some pretty magical chapter book series. Dragonstorm is a brand new series, and everybody's favorite kitten mermaids are back for a perfect pumpkin. If your readers really love magical adventures, The Magic Starts Here is a collection of 3 magical chapter books, Unicorn Academy, Mermicorns, and Puppy Pirates, all 3 in 1. And with that, we're moving on to middle grade.
All right, back over to me. Answers in the Pages. From New York Times bestselling author David Levithan comes his sophomore middle grade novel, Answers in the Pages. When Donovan leaves his copy of The Adventurers on the kitchen counter, he didn't think that his mom would read it, let alone have any issues with it. Soon, the whole town is freaking out about whether the book's main character is gay, and his mom is trying to get the book removed from the school curriculum. Donovan is caught in the middle. Levithan interweaves 3 connected storylines, delivering a bold and timely novel about speaking up and coming out. This plot is unfortunately not as fictitious as we would hope in these day and ages, with book challenges and bannings on the rise across the country. Answers in the Pages not only challenges book banning, but requires and encourages thoughtful conversation on the matter and makes for a powerful community read. Next. When Jennifer Chan moves to Mallory's neighborhood, it becomes alarmingly clear that she doesn't care about the law of fitting in middle school. Jennifer believes in aliens and believes that she can find them. When Jennifer goes missing, Mallory goes searching for her. The closer she gets to the truth about Jennifer, the more she has to face the truth within herself. In her first novel since winning the Newbery Medal for When You Trap a Tiger, Tay Keller lights up the sky with insightful coming-of-age story about shifting friendships and the power we all hold to influence and change one another. Next. From Coretta Scott King honor-winning author Kekla Magoon comes a charming, quirky story perfect for puzzle whizzes looking for where their pieces might fit. Chester Keene is really attached to his routines, but one thing he loves more than his routines are the secret messages he gets from his dad, who he has never met. But Chester knows it's because he's been on secret government assignment his whole life. When Chester and his friend Sky start trying to solve a once-in-a-lifetime puzzle-solving mission, they learn that the cracking the code may lead them to finding out more than they bargained for. Perfect for fans of puzzles and mysteries with some lovely coming-of-age themes. Next. We all fell in love with Isaiah Dunn, and Isaiah Dunn is my hero from Kelly Baptiste. But now he's back and here to save the day. This is the heartfelt and humorous sequel that celebrates friendship, community, and a love of words. Isaiah is navigating middle school, which is already hard enough without his mentor Kobe, who won't stop making trouble. It's up to Isaiah to try to save the day and find the hero in himself. Next. The author of Mr. Tarab in the Perfect Score series is back with a new group of kids navigating growing up. A spirited dual narrative drives this funny, touching brother-sister story, where even the best laid plans sometimes backfire and feelings may get bruised. But family and friends always count. Letting go of childhood means boldly taking risks to face the future and learning from the past. Next. If you read this. From the critically acclaimed author of When Life Gives You Mangoes comes a poignant coming-of-age story of new memories, surprises, and moments of healing. If you read this, Karen Getton beautifully captures the edge of adolescence, where everything is thrilling, amazing, and terrifying in a way it will never be again. Next. The Natural Genius of Ants is a heartwarming and lyrical coming-of-age story from the award-winning author of Down to Earth. On a trip to his dad's hometown, Harvard gets the idea to start an ant farm, like the one his dad had as a kid. But with the actual ants they find around the kitchen instead. Ants can be tricky to understand, as can new friendships and family dynamics. This is perfect for fans of Kate DiCamillo and Rebecca Stead. Now I'll kick it back over to Adrian.
The actor-comedian Kevin Hart is everywhere these days, and we are happy to say that his alter ego, Marcus, is back in a fun and heartfelt story titled Marcus Makes It Big. What happens when your first movie is a hit and your crew, otherwise known as your friends, are so excited they can't concentrate on your second movie. That's what our friend Marcus has to deal with in this sequel. Kevin Hart delivers a message about being creative, working hard, and learning that sometimes the best dreams are the ones you achieve with your friends. This book, like the first, is highly illustrated by David Cooper, and Kevin will once again record the audiobook. Next slide, please. Here's another fun one. The new highly illustrated series, The Terribles, starts off with Welcome to Stubtoe Elementary. It has a narrator that breaks the fourth wall, illustrated chapters, graphic panels, poems, and activities throughout, which make this the humorous type of read that will keep readers engaged, entertained, and coming back for more. Librarians will find it easy to hand this silly, spooky series to most young readers. Next slide. And then those hilarious crime-fighting pigeons are back for their 5th mystery, where they find a traitor in their ranks. These heavily illustrated books are perfect for fans of series like Bad Guys, The Investigators, and 13th Story Treehouse. Over to fantasy with Erica.
Hi. Winnie Zhang Unleashes a Legend, Book 1. This book is an epic new fantasy series inspired by Chinese mythology. When a girl awakens to stuff of legends from an old family recipe, she must embrace her extraordinary heritage to save the world. This fresh middle-grade fantasy has elements of magic and touches on themes of social pressures and complex family dynamics. It has something for everyone. Next slide. Honest June, the show must go on. June can't tell a lie, and that made for a lot of drama even before she joined her High School Musical. Tween readers won't want to miss book 2 in this relatable and magical series. The illustrations interspersed throughout the book make it perfect for reluctant readers looking for a breezy, fun read with a lot of heart. Next slide. Wonder Woman saves the world from a cunning villain in this final installment of the trilogy. Preteen Diana travels to the mortal realm for the first time to fight against the evil force stealing the powers of the Olympian gods. And back to Katie, I believe.
All right. Player versus player number 1, Ultimate Gaming Showdown. Full of action, this illustrated series starter is one for all the gamers out there. When an epic tournament is announced, Josh, Hannah, Larkin, and Wheatley form a team to compete for the mysterious grand prize. As individual gamers, they're good, but it will take all of their skills working together to stand a chance of winning. This is perfect for young fans of Ready Player One and Mr. Lemoncello's library. Next. Race for the Escape by Christopher Edge. You'll know Chris as the award-winning author of The Many Worlds of Albie Bright. In this brand new adventure, all Amy Oswald wants for her birthday is an evening of fun and adventure with her friends at the Escape, a brand new, supposedly impossible to beat, escape room. But as soon as the game starts, they realize they've got more than they bargained for. Now the 4 friends find themselves in a race against time to solve the riddle and save the world, all the while facing very real, very deadly dangers. And take it away, Natalie.
Moving on to mystery. Mr. Lemoncello's very first game. Before Mr. Lemoncello became everyone's favorite game maker, he was a kid who liked to roll the dice. Discover the origins of what James Patterson calls the coolest library in the world in this prequel to the New York Times best-selling Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. The series that Self-Awareness calls a fun-filled, suspenseful, intellectual puzzle. This is perfect for reluctant readers. Next slide. Nate the Great and the Missing Tomatoes. Join the world's greatest detective, Nate the Great, as he solves the mystery of the missing tomatoes in this long-running chapter book series that makes problem-solving fun. Next, please. And whether you like compelling mysteries, contemporary friendship stories, or books with speculative elements, you'll find something to love in this middle grade title. This is a story that seamlessly integrates all of these elements for one utterly unique read. It's a middle grade mystery that follows the adventures of a boy with an experimental brain implant and a reclusive girl training to be a spy as they're pitted against school bullies, their own parents, and an evil brain hacking corporation. This is a perfect read for fans of Stranger Things. Back to you, Katie.
All right, I have 2 tween titles for you now. 12 to 22. The movie 13 Going on 30 just celebrated an anniversary, which I have to say makes me feel very old. And when I heard 12 to 22 launched with its fresh twists on the plot, which includes magic TikTok filter, I just felt even older. And while the hashtags and the phone apps are something my 13-year-old self would definitely not recognize, the heart of this story never gets old. Everyone wants to grow up fast when they're younger, and this is the perfect tween tale of Harper, who finds out what it would be like to be 22 when she jumps in time with the help of a mysterious TikTok filter. Next. The Pack 2, Claw and Order. The Pack is back. Full of secrets, sheer practice, and friendship potentially being destroyed, Claw and Order is a page-turning addition to the perfect in-between series for middle school girls. And back to Natalie.
Moving on to some nonfiction, starting with Kay's Anatomy. This is highly accessible middle grade nonfiction from Adam Kay, who is not only a knowledgeable doctor, but is a knowledgeable doctor with a middle grade sense of humor. So Kay's Anatomy will provide readers with a complete and completely hilarious guide to the human body. Short chapters, fast-paced writing, and highly illustrated interiors make this an ideal book for reluctant readers who might otherwise be hesitant about reading nonfiction. Next, please. History Smashers is the nonfiction series that smashes everything you thought you knew about history. Kate Messner takes a direct and kid-friendly approach to teaching history with a mix of sidebars, illustrations, photos, and graphic panels. Now, Kate Messner joins forces with Gwendolyn Hooks to uncover the hidden history behind the Underground Railroad and Black American struggle for freedom. Pick up this important book to add to your collection. Next slide, please. And The Little Bad Book #1. With tricky puzzles, funny riddles, and eerily funny stories, this interactive middle grade book allows the reader to become a part of the plot. It is perfect for readers who love to solve mysteries, and it fits the bill for kids who like scary, but not too scary stories. And over to Adrian.
All right, we're going to talk about some middle grade graphic novels. I am so excited to welcome you back to Peapod Farm in Book 2 from acclaimed graphic novelist Lucy Knisley in this sequel to Stepping Stones. Jen is finally getting used to her life on Peapod Farm with her stepsisters, but now is faced with having to navigate 6th grade and losing her newfound stepsisters to boys and crushes. I love this series because it captures that awkward but magical middle grade mindset with beautiful, engaging illustrations from Lucy. Hand this to fans of Rena Talgemeyer, but don't be afraid to hand this to the first-time graphic novel reader. The plot and writing is so engaging, it's perfect series to fall in love with graphic novels. Next slide. Growing Pangs is an irresistibly relatable graphic novel about friendship, anxiety, and growing up. As Katie navigates 6th grade after being homeschooled, things get complicated fast. It's perfect for fans of real friends and guts. Next slide. Luis Fernanda and Luisa Teresa are twins who are finally having to face being on their own. Every day, Teresa crosses the border from Mexicali, Mexico to go to a private school in California. This is a truly contemporary story about siblings, middle school, and peer pressure. Twin Cities explores the importance of family and also the struggles that come with trying to live up to standards that are impossible to meet.
Hey, I love Ham Helsing. Kirkus calls this series fast-paced and lots of fun. The uproarious next installment of the Ham Helsing graphic novel sees Ham and his crew back to fight monsters at the mysterious Camp Fishhead Lake. I personally love the environmental message of the book that sometimes monsters are just protecting their homes. Next slide. When Stag B and Rhino B, best bug friends, leave their small hometown, they realize there's a lot to learn about the outside world and themselves. Book 3 in this middle grade graphic novel series is filled with social emotional themes, friendship, and adventure. Next slide. Star Knights is a debut graphic novel that asks the question, what makes a hero? A simple frog who wants to become a legendary knight finds himself on a magical journey. Packed with gorgeous art, this story is perfect for kids who love popular cartoons like Steven Universe And it's also perfect for readers who loved books like Jeff Rodkey's We're Not From Here. Next slide. Meet Steve L. McGeevil. He's the greatest supervillain in the world, or he will be, one day. Lean into your wicked side with a middle school supervillain in training, who is sure to have massive reader appeal. Back to Adrian.
And we have some excellent graphic novel chapter books with some amazing series favorites like Magic Treehouse, Pizza and Taco, Shark and Bot, adding to their lists. These are perfect accessible reads for beginners. It's a great way to get kids hooked on graphic novels. And back over to Erica.
Hey. Violet Made of Thorns. This is a darkly enchanting fantasy debut about a morally gray witch, a cursed prince, and a prophecy that ignites their fate-twisted destinies. Hand this to readers hungry for lush fairy tale tinged fantasy in the vein of the hugely popular bestsellers like House of Salt and Sorrows and A Curse So Dark and Lonely. The hate to lust to love dynamics between Violet and the cursed prince Cyrus are sure to satisfy readers looking for romantic fantasy YA. Gina Chen's storytelling is sure to enchant readers, and they'll have even more to look forward to since this is book one in a duology with the sequel set to publish in summer 2023. Okay, next slide and over to Adrian.
And some historical fiction. The Peach Rebellion by Wendelin Van Dranen. And I'm sure many of you know award-winning author Wendelin from one of her many books. Maybe it was the Sammy Keys Mysteries, or maybe Flipped, or maybe even The Running Dream that made you a Wendelin fan. She is back with a historical fiction story with important themes of feminism, class differences, and economic struggles. It takes place in California in 1947 and gives us a glimpse of what happened after the Dust Bowl migration ended. This is a wonderful friendship story from a master. Next slide. And now for some narrative nonfiction. The national bestseller Devotion is now available for young adults. Devotion tells the true story about two Navy pilots during the Korean War, one white from New England and one black from the South. At a time when it wasn't normal for these two people to become friends, they forged a very deep friendship. When one of them gets shot down behind enemy lines, the other must decide to either watch their friend die or attempt a one-man rescue mission. It's a fascinating story that is relevant to our lives today. Through the telling of these real-life events, past, current, and ongoing issues of racial inequality, as well as open-mindedness, acceptance, and belonging are explored. And it's scheduled to be a major movie release later this year. And over to Katie for some more YA.
We're going to kick things off with young adult with the thrillers and mysteries, of personal favorite topics of mine. Nothing More to Tell by Karen M. McManus. The #1 New York Times bestselling author of One of Us is Lying is back with a brand new page-turning mystery. 4 years ago, Bryn left St. Ambrose after the shocking murder of her favorite teacher. She is now moving home and is determined to find out the truth of what happened. As she begins to investigate what happened in the woods that day, she uncovers secrets that might change everything. Karen has really cemented herself as a major player in the thriller genre, and this new offering does not disappoint. Next. Never Coming Home by Kate M. Williams. Unknown Island is one of the world's most exclusive destinations, and now the whole world is watching as the mysterious resort opens its doors to the first 10. 10 elite influencers specifically chosen to have to be the first to experience all the luxury that Unknown Island has to offer. But what they don't know is that they haven't been selected for their following, but for their secrets, all of them deadly. Next. The Agathas by Kathleen Glasgow and Liz Lawson. As a huge Agatha Christie fan, I am really excited to share this next must-read YA whodunit with you. Brooke Donovan is missing and all eyes are on her ex-boyfriend Steve, but Steve's other ex-girlfriend, Alice Ogilvy, isn't so sure. With the help of her tutor, Iris Adams, Alice sets out to find out what really happened to Brooke, with the complete works of Agatha Christie as their murder mystery solving guide. But the town of Castle Cove holds more secrets than they realize, and even the mystery master herself might not be able to save them from the dangers they're about to walk into. Hand this to fans of Karen McManus and TV's Riverdale. Next. we're going to move into YA romance with American Royals Rivals. The third installment of the American Royal series is such a treat and out in time for summer vacation reads and book clubs. With the third book out, the series is bingeable for those who haven't treated themselves to the fabulous glamour and drama of the American royal lifestyle yet. Next. Finding Jupiter is a very special YA romance on our list, and I'm excited to tell you about it. With a lyrical blend of found poetry and poignant prose, the stunning debut from Kellis Rowe captures young Black love and decades-old family secrets that may shatter a romance that feels written in the stars. Kellis weaves in elements of found poetry and writings of F. Scott Fitzgerald, Zora Neale Hurston, and Richard White, which just adds to the epic love story. Next. Places We've Never Been. From Cassie West comes a contemporary romance about a cross-country family road trip that brings two longtime friends together in an unexpected romance. Next. Julia Walton, the award-winning author of The Words on Bathroom Walls, is a master of the unapologetic teen voice. And on the subject of unmentionable things, Julia delivers a brutally honest novel about sex, social media, and the courage to pursue truth when misinformation is rife. This is a fabulous pick for adult book clubs looking for a teen story with plenty to discuss. Next. Nate Plus One. For YA readers who swoon over feel-good novels from Becky Albertalli, Nate Plus One is a new rom-com from Kevin Van Wy, author of Date Me, Bryson Keller. What I love about Kevin's books is how he sets up the meet cutes. This is a great addition for Pride Month reads as well. Next. Love and Other Great Expectations hits on all of my weaknesses. A rom-com set in the UK, it doesn't get much better than that in my opinion. Set in the middle of a scavenger hunt across all of England makes this such a fun read. Next. Before Takeoff. I read Before Takeoff in exactly one sitting. It's like getting on an amusement park ride. Two teens meet on a layover that has gone horribly wrong when a jungle sprouts up right in the middle of the airport. It's a fun, adventurous, fast-paced read written with insightful wit that teens will surely appreciate. And then back over to Natalie.
And underlined original paperbacks. Starting off with Girl Overboard, which is a fast-paced thriller about a girl who investigates her friend's disappearance during their cruise ship vacation. This is perfect for reluctant readers and is a perfect summer read. Frightmares is about a Florida tourist trap, a summer acting job that turns into a real-life horror show when a cast member turns up dead. This nail-biting story is perfect for fans of Fear Street and readers in search of a very scary summer read. Bad at Love, another paperback original romance about a teen rocker with a bad boy reputation and the aspiring journalist who's determined to dig up the dirt on him, if they don't fall for each other first. Written by a Brazilian author, this story centers a diverse cast, including a Brazilian rock star and an Afro-Latina aspiring journalist. This is perfect for readers seeking diverse new voices in romance. And Fireworks. Readers who love romances with smart tropes will love the tenderness and the awkwardness of Lulu's and Kite's friends to lovers romance. With an accessible, teen-friendly voice that feels authentic and relatable, Fireworks will light a spark in your heart. And I'll pass it back over to Adrian.
Well, thank you, everyone. That brings us to the end of our list. Thank you so much for joining us. Please visit us at rhteacherslibrarians.com and don't forget to sign up for our newsletter to learn about new resources, events, and books. Thanks, everyone. Happy reading.
Thank you so much to the Random House Children's Book School and Library team. What a fantastic list. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit www.booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like the ones you see here. Not yet a subscriber? Pair the print reading experience with the convenience of online access at booklistonline.com and lock in print, online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of the special webinar offer to get Booklist for only $75. Patron-friendly, librarian-approved, and free with a Booklist subscription, Booklist Reader, Booklist's new digital-only magazine highlighting diverse readers' advisory recommendations for all ages, has arrived. To see and share the latest issue, visit booklistonline.com/reader-issues. Soon we will be together again. The 2022 annual conference is almost here. Attendees will hear from inspiring speakers, attend top quality educational sessions, visit with exhibitors, hear from authors, and meet and mingle with colleagues. Advanced registration rates end tomorrow, so be sure to register now at alaannual.org. Thank you again for joining us for today's webinar. And one more huge thank you to our special guests, Stephen, Magdalena, Charnelle, and Pauline, our friends at the Random House Children's Book School and Library team, and of course, to our sponsor, Random House Children's Books. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.